Every single year, thousands of Americans die from mistakes so unbelievably dumb that police reports read like comedy sketches. People who trusted a stranger's TikTok challenge over basic common sense, who ignored every warning label because how bad could it really be, a woman who napped on a beach and didn't notice the tide coming in, a man who tested bear spray on himself first. These are real deaths, real warnings, and by number 35, you'll question everything you thought was harmless. Hit subscribe right now before we start, because you do not want to miss what's coming next. Let's get into it. 1. A strange myth has floated around gun safety circles for years, claiming that a jammed weapon can be checked by simply peering down the barrel. One man decided to test this theory for himself instead of trusting an instructor's warning. He figured a quick glance would settle whether the chamber was actually empty before he continued cleaning it. Unfortunately, it was not empty at all. The result was instant and permanent, turning a casual moment of curiosity into one of the most repeated cautionary tales in firearm safety history. Instructors still mention his story decades later, reminding everyone that some questions should never be answered by staring straight into them. 2. There is a bizarre myth among bored teenagers suggesting that anything sealed and mysterious deserves a microwave test just to witness the chaos it might create. One guy took this challenge seriously, tossing a sealed can inside and expecting nothing worse than a funny mess to clean up afterward. Pressure inside the can had very different plans for his evening. It exploded violently, sending scorched metal and hot liquid flying across his kitchen within seconds of the timer starting. Neighbors later described hearing what sounded like a small bomb going off nearby. His curiosity became a viral warning story, proving that sealed containers exist for reasons far more serious than simple freshness. 3. Somewhere on social media, a trend convinced people that tying themselves to train tracks would guarantee viral fame overnight. One woman decided to try it herself, choosing a quiet stretch of rail she assumed nobody actually used anymore. She had checked the schedule online but somehow misread the timing by several crucial hours. What she thought was an empty track turned into a terrifying countdown nobody nearby expected that afternoon. Locals heard the whistle blare long before rescuers could reach her in time. The internet turned her mistake into a lasting warning about what happens when confidence replaces double-checking a simple timetable. 4. Winter dares have circulated for generations claiming that licking a frozen metal pole proves real toughness among friends. One man accepted the challenge outside during a brutal freeze, expecting nothing worse than a stuck tongue and some laughter from his buddies. His tongue survived the ordeal completely unharmed, peeling away without much drama at all. His heart could not handle the sudden shock his body experienced from the extreme cold exposure that followed almost immediately. Paramedics arrived within minutes, stunned that something so silly had escalated into a genuine medical emergency. Doctors now use his case as proof that cold exposure targets more than skin. 5. Extreme sports circles have long believed that filming yourself free soloing a cliff guarantees unforgettable content for social media. One guy climbed without ropes, harness, or backup gear, fully convinced his phone would capture the perfect adrenaline-filled moment. He reached impressive heights before realizing something had gone terribly wrong with his setup the entire climb. His phone had never actually started recording, leaving nothing behind except the danger itself. Witnesses below watched in horror as the situation unfolded far above solid ground. The climb became local legend anyway, just not for the reason he originally hoped it would be. 6. Spice enthusiasts often insist that eating the world's hottest pepper alone proves ultimate bravery without needing an audience to witness it. One woman tried the stunt privately, assuming she could handle the burning sensation without anyone else around to help her through it. Within minutes, her body reacted far more violently than she expected from a single pepper. Her throat swelled, her vision blurred, and she realized nobody nearby even knew she was struggling at all. Emergency responders later explained how dangerously close the situation had come to a completely preventable tragedy. Spice challenges now carry a very different reputation among her friends. 7. Outdoor enthusiasts have long assumed that testing bear spray on yourself first proves it actually works before an emergency arrives in the wild. One man sprayed himself directly to check the potency before heading out on a weekend hiking trip. The chemical reaction hit him instantly, burning his eyes and throat far worse than any bear encounter possibly could have. He stumbled around his backyard gasping for air, while neighbors wondered what exactly was happening over the fence. Paramedics later confirmed he had essentially attacked himself with wilderness-grade pepper spray for no real reason. Hikers everywhere still bring up his backyard experiment as a warning. 8. Bar bets have started plenty of bad decisions, But one convinced a guy that juggling knives after a few drinks would impress everyone watching him perform. He grabbed 3 kitchen knives, confident his coordination remained sharp, despite the alcohol clouding his judgment completely that night. Friends cheered him on, filming the moment they assumed would end in laughter rather than an emergency room visit. Within seconds, his rhythm collapsed, sending blades spinning in directions nobody at the party expected. The room went silent as entertainment turned into an actual crisis unfolding right in front of everyone. Bartenders in town still mention his name as a warning. 9. Adventurous influencers chase strange trends for the perfect photo, and one convinced a woman that petting a wild alligator would look amazing on her feed. She waded toward a resting alligator near a swamp, convinced its stillness meant it was somehow harmless and approachable to strangers. The alligator's calm exterior gave no warning of what was about to happen within seconds of contact. Witnesses screamed as the situation escalated faster than anyone standing nearby could react or intervene properly. She survived the encounter but carried permanent reminders of how badly her aesthetic photo idea had gone that day. Nature rarely cooperates with content creation plans. 10. A stormy afternoon convinced a technician that climbing a radio tower mid-storm was the fastest way to fix a stubborn signal issue at work. He ignored every weather warning broadcasted that day, convinced his experience made him somehow immune to the dangers waiting above him. Lightning flickered ominously in the distance as he climbed higher, focused entirely on solving the technical problem at hand. Colleagues on the ground shouted for him to come down as conditions worsened dramatically within minutes of his climb. His decision to prioritize the broadcast signal over his own safety became a defining lesson in the industry. No signal was ever worth that risk. 11. Backyard parties often inspire questionable stunts, and one convinced a guy that leaping off a moving car's roof into a pool would make an unforgettable clip. He climbed onto the vehicle as it rolled slowly through the neighborhood, confident the pool ahead was full and ready. Nobody had actually checked the water level before the stunt began that evening. He launched himself off the roof, expecting a splash, and instead found nothing waiting to catch him. Friends who filmed the moment stood frozen, realizing too late what they had just witnessed. The clip never made it online the way anyone had planned. 12. Radio contests have a way of encouraging terrible decisions, and one convinced a woman that chugging a gallon of water in under an hour would win her a prize. She figured hydration seemed harmless compared to other outrageous contest ideas she had heard about before. Her body disagreed almost immediately, as the water-overwhelmed systems never designed to process that much liquid so fast. Producers in the studio noticed something was wrong long before paramedics arrived to help her. What started as a lighthearted competition turned into a serious medical situation within minutes. Radio stations reconsidered their contest rules after that broadcast. 13. 60 years old and determined to prove nothing had changed, one man decided a wide river crossing was the perfect way to show his stamina. He waded in without checking the current, confident his younger self's strength had somehow stuck around all these decades. The water fought back harder than he remembered from summers long past. Halfway across, exhaustion set in far faster than his pride was willing to admit out loud. Bystanders on the shore scrambled for help as the situation turned serious within minutes. His stamina argument ended somewhere in the middle of that river. 14. Trying to impress a first date, one guy decided hot wiring his own car in the driveway would look effortlessly cool and memorable. He had seen the trick performed in movies and assumed the wiring underneath his dashboard worked the exact same way. Sparks flew almost immediately, followed by smoke that had nothing to do with romance whatsoever. His date watched from the porch, unsure whether to laugh or call for help, as the situation unfolded. The evening ended with a mechanic, instead of a dinner reservation. His car never fully trusted him again after that stunt. 15. Vending machines have tested plenty of patience, and one convinced a woman that rocking it hard enough would finally release her stuck snack. She fed dollar after dollar into the machine, growing more frustrated as the snack refused to budge from its metal coil. Eventually, her entire paycheck disappeared into the machine, chasing a bag of chips that never fell. Co-workers watched in disbelief as she shook the machine with increasing desperation throughout her lunch break. Security eventually intervened before the situation escalated any further inside the break room. Her paycheck story became office legend almost instantly. 16. Nail guns rarely get treated as dangerous the way firearms do, and one man decided that made them perfectly safe for a reckless game with his friends. He assumed the tool lacked the power to cause any real damage compared to an actual gun. That assumption proved devastatingly wrong within seconds of the game beginning that afternoon. His friends stood in shocked silence as they realized how quickly a joke had turned into an emergency. Paramedics later explained that nail guns carry far more force than most people ever consider. Hardware stores still tell his story as a warning. 17. Moving a refrigerator alone down a steep driveway sounded simple enough to one guy who decided a hand truck would handle all the heavy lifting. He balanced the massive appliance carefully, confident his grip and the incline would cooperate throughout the entire journey down. Gravity had other plans almost immediately once the hand truck began rolling faster than expected. The fridge broke free partway down, gaining speed as he chased after it helplessly toward the street below. Neighbors watched in disbelief as the appliance crashed into a parked car at the bottom. His solo moving plan became a cautionary tale overnight. 18. Raw cookie dough has tempted plenty of people, and one woman decided eating it daily was a harmless little habit worth keeping around. For months, she blamed a mysterious flu for her ongoing stomach troubles, never once connecting the dots to her favorite snack. Doctors eventually traced her illness back to raw eggs and flour hiding inside every spoonful she enjoyed. She was stunned to learn her comfort food had been making her sick the entire time. Her kitchen habits changed overnight, once the diagnosis finally made sense to her. Cookie dough now stays safely inside the oven at her house. 19. Fixing a satellite dish seemed simple enough to one man who decided standing on a rooftop air conditioning unit would provide the perfect height. He climbed up without considering whether the unit was built to support his full weight during the adjustment. The metal casing gave way almost immediately once he shifted his balance to reach the dish. He crashed through the unit and onto the roof below before anyone realized what had happened up there. Neighbors heard the commotion and rushed outside to check on the noise. His signal problem became a much bigger problem within seconds. 20. 10 floors above the street, one guy decided a hotel balcony railing was the perfect spot for a dramatic selfie, overlooking the city skyline. He climbed onto the railing carefully, confident his balance could handle the pose he had already planned out in his head. The wind picked up suddenly, catching him off guard in a way he never anticipated from that height. Guests below watched in horror as the situation unfolded, high above the busy street. Hotel security rushed to the scene the moment they spotted him up there. His skyline photo never made it past that terrifying moment. 21. Getting ready for a night out, one woman decided using a hairdryer inside her running bathtub would save precious time before heading to a party. She figured the outlet across the room was far enough away to keep everything perfectly safe during her routine. Water and electricity had a very different opinion about that distance she had calculated in her head. The moment she reached for a nearby towel, everything went wrong faster than she could process. Family members found her shortly after, stunned by what should have been a simple beauty routine. Bathrooms across the country still carry warning labels because of stories exactly like hers. 22. Filming himself for a home improvement video, one man decided operating a chainsaw one-handed would look impressive to anyone watching online later. He figured years of yard work had earned him enough confidence to skip the safety manual entirely that afternoon. The chainsaw had no interest in his confidence the moment his grip shifted unexpectedly during the cut. Neighbors heard the commotion and rushed over, just as the situation turned serious near his fence line. Paramedics arrived quickly, though the video never quite captured the lesson he learned that day. Power tools rarely care how many views a video might earn. 23. An online ad promised complete protection, and one guy decided testing a bulletproof vest on himself was the fastest way to confirm the claim was true. He skipped the shooting range entirely, trusting the product description more than any actual safety testing could offer. His friends watched nervously as he prepared to fire a single round directly at his own chest that afternoon. The vest failed to perform anywhere close to what the online listing had promised buyers. Emergency responders later confirmed how close the situation had come to a completely different outcome. Online reviews for that vest changed dramatically after his experience. 24. Just needing a quick nap before a long drive, one woman decided her closed garage was the perfect quiet spot to rest inside her running car. She left the engine idling, assuming a few minutes of comfort would cause no harm to her at all. Carbon monoxide had no interest in her definition of just a few minutes that afternoon. Family members eventually noticed something was wrong when she never came back inside the house. Paramedics arrived too late to change what had already happened inside that closed space. Garages across the country now carry warnings because of moments exactly like hers. 25. A workplace bet convinced one man that eating gas station sushi would prove something about his toughness to his coworkers watching nearby. He grabbed the questionable package without hesitation, confident his stomach could handle whatever had been sitting under that heat lamp all day. His coworkers laughed as he finished the entire tray in front of everyone during their lunch break. Within hours, his body made it very clear that toughness had nothing to do with food safety standards. He spent the following days regretting every decision that led him to that refrigerated case. Gas station sushi remains a running joke at that office today. 26. Trying to impress friends during a kitchen mishap, one guy decided catching a falling knife barehanded would look far cooler than simply letting it hit the floor. He reached out instinctively, confident his reflexes were fast enough to grab the blade safely by its handle. Physics disagreed completely with his confidence the moment his hand made contact with the falling knife. Blood hit the counter before anyone in the kitchen fully understood what had just happened in front of them. His friends rushed him to urgent care while reminding him constantly that letting things fall is usually the smarter option. Kitchen knives remain undefeated in that particular contest. 27. Trying to impress everyone at a backyard gathering, one woman decided pouring gasoline onto a bonfire would create a much bigger and more dramatic flame. She figured a splash from the can would look impressive without causing any real problems for anyone standing nearby. Fire had a completely different plan the instant the gasoline made contact with the existing flames. The blaze shot upward far higher and faster than anyone at the party expected that evening. Guests scrambled backward as the situation turned dangerous within a single terrifying second. Backyard bonfires now come with strict warnings because of nights just like hers. 28. Convinced it was nothing serious, one man decided a rattlesnake bite on his hiking trip was simply a scratch not worth mentioning to anyone around him. He continued hiking for hours, insisting the swelling and discomfort would eventually fade away on their own, without treatment. His body had a very different understanding of what that bite actually meant for his health. Hiking partners grew increasingly concerned as his condition worsened steadily throughout the long afternoon on the trail. Doctors later explained just how close his stubbornness had come to costing him everything that day. Rattlesnakes rarely leave scratches worth ignoring like that. 29. Determined to capture the perfect shot, one guy decided standing directly beside a firework mortar was the best way to film its launch up close. He positioned his camera inches away, confident the fuse would give him plenty of warning before anything actually happened nearby. Fireworks rarely follow polite timelines the way he had imagined in his head beforehand. The mortar fired early, catching him completely off guard in front of everyone gathered for the celebration. Bystanders screamed as the situation unfolded within a fraction of a second that night. His perfect shot became a warning story shared at every celebration since. 30. Driving down the highway with her toddler, one woman decided letting him hold the steering wheel for just a second would create a fun little memory. She figured a quiet stretch of highway posed no real risk for such a brief and harmless moment together. Toddlers rarely understand the difference between playtime and a moving vehicle traveling at highway speed. The wheel jerked suddenly, sending the car swerving before she could regain full control of the situation. Other drivers honked and swerved as the chaos unfolded across multiple lanes within seconds. That fun little memory became a lesson she never forgot behind the wheel again. 31. Buzzing with frustration over a wasp nest, one man decided a leaf blower combined with a lighter would be the fastest way to solve his backyard problem permanently. He figured blasting air at the nest while adding fire would scatter the wasps before they even noticed what was happening. Wasps had a very different reaction to fire suddenly appearing near their home that afternoon. The flames caught faster than he expected, spreading toward the fence line while angry wasps swarmed around him furiously. Neighbors called for help as the situation escalated well beyond a simple pest control project. Backyard extermination attempts rarely end that dramatically for most homeowners. 32. Running late for a quick errand down the street, one guy decided skipping his seatbelt for just 2 minutes wouldn't make any real difference to his safety. He figured such a short distance posed practically no risk compared to a longer drive across town. Accidents rarely check the odometer before deciding when exactly to happen on any given road. A distracted driver ran a stop sign moments later, colliding with his car before he even reached the end of the block. Paramedics later explained how differently that morning might have gone with one simple click of a seatbelt. 2 minutes turned out to matter more than he ever imagined. 33. Standing in her kitchen, one woman decided a container of shellfish smelling slightly off was still okay to eat, since nothing seemed obviously wrong. She figured her nose was a reliable enough indicator compared to actually checking the expiration date printed on the package. Her stomach had a very different opinion about that decision within just a few hours afterward. Symptoms hit hard overnight, sending her to the emergency room far sooner than she ever expected that evening. Doctors explained that smell alone rarely tells the full story when it comes to expired seafood. Her refrigerator policy changed dramatically after that experience. 34. Trying to save space during a long road trip, one man decided riding on his own rooftop cargo rack down the highway seemed like a practical solution. He figured a firm grip and a short distance would keep him perfectly secure while his vehicle stayed packed below. Highway speeds rarely cooperate with grip strength the way he had confidently assumed beforehand. Wind resistance hit him harder than expected the moment his car merged onto the open interstate that afternoon. Other drivers watched in disbelief as the situation unfolded right in front of them on the road. His space-saving idea became a widely shared warning almost instantly. 35. Curious whether the ice would hold, one guy decided the safest way to test a frozen lake was simply jumping directly onto its surface. He figured a running start would somehow prove the thickness before anyone else risked walking across it that morning. Ice rarely announces its weaknesses ahead of time the way he had hoped it might. The surface cracked instantly beneath him, plunging him into freezing water before his friends could even react to what happened. Bystanders scrambled to pull him out as the situation turned serious within seconds of his jump. Frozen lakes remain far better tested with tools than body weight. 36. Trusting her navigation app completely, one woman decided a flooded road ahead was perfectly safe since her phone insisted the route was still clear. She continued driving forward, figuring technology surely understood road conditions better than her own eyes staring directly at the water. Rising floodwater had no interest in what any app claimed about its depth that afternoon. Her car stalled halfway through, leaving her stranded as the water crept steadily higher around the vehicle. Rescue crews arrived just in time to pull her from a situation her phone never should have suggested. Apps rarely see what windshields clearly show drivers. 37. Fascinated by how airbags actually worked, one man decided a screwdriver was the perfect tool to manually open his own steering wheel airbag at home. He figured a slow, careful approach would let him study the mechanism without triggering anything dangerous inside the compartment. Airbags rarely appreciate curious hands poking around their carefully engineered safety systems like that. The device deployed suddenly, launching outward with far more force than he ever anticipated from his garage. Neighbors heard the loud bang and rushed over, unsure what exactly had happened inside his car. His curiosity about airbags ended abruptly that afternoon. 38. After discovering the event online that same morning, one guy decided running with the bulls in Spain sounded like the perfect spontaneous adventure worth trying immediately. He figured basic instructions from a quick search were more than enough preparation for an event with centuries of tradition behind it. Bulls rarely care how recently someone learned about their annual tradition through a phone screen. The run began chaotically, and his lack of preparation became obvious within the very first few seconds. Bystanders pulled him to safety as the situation turned dangerous faster than he ever expected that morning. Some traditions deserve more than same-day research. 39. Scrolling through a trending challenge, one woman decided attempting a fainting trend alone in her apartment seemed harmless enough to try without anyone else around. She figured holding her breath the way the video demonstrated would create a dramatic moment worth posting online later. Her body reacted far more seriously than the trend had ever suggested it would during the attempt. She collapsed suddenly, striking her head against furniture before anyone realized something had gone wrong in her apartment. Neighbors eventually found her after noticing unusual silence coming from next door. That trending challenge left her with consequences no video ever warned about. 40. Preparing for a cold winter night, one man decided plugging 5 space heaters into a single household outlet would keep his entire house warm through the darkness. He figured the outlet could handle the load since each heater individually seemed like a reasonable appliance to run overnight. Electrical wiring rarely agrees with 5 heaters competing for the same limited outlet capacity like that. Smoke began curling from the wall around 3 in the morning, while everyone in the house remained fast asleep upstairs. Smoke detectors saved the family moments before the situation escalated into something far worse. His warm house plans sparked far more than heat that night. 41. Borrowing gear from a friend the night before, one guy decided freediving into a quarry without any formal training would be a thrilling way to spend his weekend. He figured strong swimming skills from childhood were more than enough preparation for diving into water far deeper than any pool he had known. Quarries rarely forgive divers who underestimate pressure and depth the way he confidently did that morning. He descended further than his body could safely handle, losing track of time in the murky water below. Fellow divers rushed to pull him up once they realized something had gone seriously wrong down there. Borrowed gear was never the real problem that day. 42. Craving something specific despite her doctor's clear warnings, one woman decided a small bite of her allergy trigger food surely wouldn't cause any real harm this one time. She figured years of careful avoidance had earned her a small exception during a special celebration with family. Her body disagreed instantly. Reacting within moments of that first small bite she had convinced herself was harmless. Family members scrambled for her emergency medication as her condition worsened rapidly right there at the table. Paramedics arrived quickly, though the evening never recovered from that single decision she made. Doctors' warnings rarely come with hidden exceptions like that. 43. Bored after a long shopping trip, one man decided riding a shopping cart down a steep parking garage ramp would be the perfect way to end his afternoon. He figured his balance and grip on the handle would keep him steady throughout the entire fast descent. Shopping carts rarely handle steep concrete ramps the way skateboards or bikes were actually designed to. The cart picked up speed rapidly, wobbling harder with every passing second as he struggled to maintain any real control. Bystanders watched in disbelief as the cart crashed near the bottom of the ramp that afternoon. His shopping trip ended far more eventfully than he ever planned. 44. Needing to reach a stubborn ceiling fan, one guy decided stacking a ladder on top of a wobbly table would provide just enough extra height to finish the job. He figured a careful balance between both surfaces would hold steady long enough to complete a quick repair. Gravity rarely cares how quick a repair is supposed to be once balance shifts unexpectedly like that. The makeshift tower wobbled violently the moment he reached the final rung near the top. He crashed down hard, taking both the ladder and the table with him across the living room floor. Ceiling fans remain undefeated against creative height solutions like his. 45. Running a quick errand before dinner, one woman decided leaving a candle burning near her curtains for just a few minutes posed no real risk to her home. She figured such a short absence left practically no time for anything serious to happen inside her living room. Flames rarely respect short errands the way she had confidently assumed before locking her front door. The curtains caught fire within minutes, spreading rapidly across the room while she remained completely unaware at the store. Neighbors spotted the smoke and called for help before the situation grew even more serious that evening. Her quick errand became a costly lesson about candles. 46. Excited to try a rope swing his friends had used for years, one man decided diving in head first without ever checking what rested beneath the water's surface below. He figured the swing's long history meant the landing area had always been perfectly safe for everyone who used it. Rivers rarely stay the same year after year, the way he had assumed without ever double-checking. Rocks had shifted beneath the surface since the last time anyone had actually verified the depth of that spot. He struck the riverbed hard, sending his friends scrambling to pull him from the water immediately. That rope swing looked very different after that afternoon. 47. Trying to stay warm while grilling dinner indoors during a power outage, one guy decided overloading a single extension cord with both a space heater and a full-sized grill was a reasonable plan. He figured the cord could handle both appliances, since neither one alone had ever caused any noticeable problems before. Extension cords rarely appreciate carrying that much combined electrical and heat load at the same time. Smoke began rising from the cord within minutes as both appliances strained the wiring far beyond its limit. Family members smelled the burning plastic just in time to unplug everything safely. Indoor grilling plans rarely end that close to disaster. 48. Ignoring repeated warnings from her mechanic, one woman decided driving on a spare donut tire for 6 straight months at highway speed was perfectly fine for daily use. She figured the small tire looked sturdy enough to handle the same demands as her regular set without any real difference. Donut tires rarely tolerate that kind of long-term highway abuse the way she had assumed for months. The tire finally gave out suddenly during rush hour, sending her car swerving across multiple lanes of traffic. Other drivers reacted quickly, helping her regain control before the situation turned into something far worse. Spare tires remain spares for a very specific reason. 49. Confident that fireworks label warnings were mostly exaggerated, one man decided every safety instruction printed on the box could be safely ignored during his backyard celebration. He figured years of lighting fireworks casually had earned him enough experience to skip reading directions entirely this time around. Warning labels rarely exist just to slow down a good celebration, contrary to what he had always believed. The firework malfunctioned the moment he lit it, reacting nothing like the countless others he had set off before. Neighbors watching from their yards scrambled for cover as the situation escalated within a single terrifying second. That backyard celebration ended far differently than everyone before it. And there you have it. 49 ways otherwise capable adults managed to outsmart themselves right out of the history books. One gasoline splash, and one microwave experiment at a time. Natural selection took a few coffee breaks, but it always came back to work. If any of these made you laugh, cringe, or yell, "Why would you do that?" at your screen, do BrainFumble a favor. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next batch of humanity's finest moments. Share this with the one friend who definitely would have licked that poll too. Now drop a comment and tell me, which one of these 49 would you have absolutely fallen for?